Part 57. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 561. When Yang Guozheng heard Pan Chalong's naked threat, the hesitation in his eyes was immediately replaced by struggle, and his body trembled slightly. Wei Danmen, with strong hatred in her eyes, immediately ran to Zhang Fenjai's side. Because at the critical moment, she instinctively believed that Zhang Fenjai could protect her safety. "Director Yang, I'll count to 3. If you don't leave the bath center immediately, I will kill a girl every minute." Even with a look of struggle in his eyes, Yang Guozheng still didn't put down his weapon, which made Pan Chalong, who was immediately unhappy, pointed at the beautiful girls with a gloomy face and threatened them. 3, 2, 1. Just when Pan Chalong's countdown reached the last number, just when Yang Guozheng decided to take Huang Yiwen and the other two out of the hall of the bath center to protect the safety of those girls, Zhang Fenjai couldn't help but sneer, and then his body shook slightly. Tisk. Then, most people at the scene could not help but gasp. Zhang Fenjai suddenly had 4 heavy weapons in his hands. Then, everyone at the scene immediately looked behind Pan Chalong, at the 4 men in black who were holding heavy weapons. What surprised them was that the 4 men in black not only lost their heavy weapons, but also had a blood hole in their foreheads. Bang, 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 bang. Accompanied by the sound of heavy objects falling, the 4 men in black, staring with their eyes wide open, fell to the ground. This. Looking at the 4 men who had lost their heavy weapons and lives inexplicably, Pan Chalong was extremely shocked, and his eyes showed an unbelievable look. "Director Yang, we have known each other for a long time. Don't you know my strength and means?" Zhang Fenjai complained rather dissatisfiedly after throwing the 4 heavy weapons in his hands to Qi Bingguan and Xiaolin. This. Whether in the bar of the romantic city or facing the ambush of the special forces, Zhang Fenjai has long shown his fearlessness of guns. However, his flustered thoughts made him forget Zhang Fenjai's existence, so when facing his complaints, Yang Guozheng didn't know what to say for a moment. Ignoring the speechless Yang Guozheng, Zhang Fenjai flashed in front of Pan Chalong, and then raised his palm to send him to the west. But at this moment, a sense of danger suddenly emerged in his heart, making him immediately mobilize his strong body strength, and raised his palm to slap the right side of his body. Bang! Accompanied by a crisp and loud hitting sound, Zhang Fenjai stepped back 3 steps in succession, then rubbed his slightly painful palm and looked up at a foreign strong man who stepped back 7 steps. Western alien werewolf. The strong physical strength, agile sneak attack speed, and familiar dark aura made him quickly see the true identity of the foreign strong man. The sneak attack with all his strength was not only repelled by the opponent's hasty attack, but also from the steps of each other's retreat. The opponent's strength was far superior to his own, which made Christian's face gradually solemn, and a trace of regret flashed in his eyes. Because he didn't expect that the skinny boy in front of him would have such strong physical strength. Without the transformation into a werewolf, he was not the opponent of the opponent at all. But if he used the werewolf transformation, it would not only violate his agreement with Chu Zhongxian and Benson, but also might attract the mysterious and powerful Taoist monks of China. Therefore, Christian, with regret flashing in his eyes, was about to bow and apologize to avoid further fighting, but Zhang Fenjai suddenly revealed the true identity of the werewolf, which made him change his face, and the regret in his eyes was instantly replaced by murderous intent. "Boy, who are you? How did you see my true identity?" As a grey wolf with strength comparable to that of a high-level foundation-building wolf, Christian believed that his restrained werewolf aura was perfect, and even the cardinal of the church and the mysterious monks of China would never be able to detect it. So, when he decided to kill the thin boy in front of him, he needed to know how the other party knew his werewolf identity. "Wei Danmen, tell everyone to retreat quickly." Feeling the strong murderous intent emerging from the werewolf in front of him, Zhang Fenjai knew that the next step would be a life and death fight. In order to avoid hurting innocent people during the fight, Zhang Fengjai warned Wei Danmen, who was standing beside him, before answering the other party's question. Afterwards, he mobilized the gray energy in his danshan to condense a sharp sword, while replying indifferently. I am just an ordinary person in China, without any mysterious origins. As for the fact that I know your identity as a werewolf, it is because I fought with a werewolf of the Black Wolf level some time ago, and I am very familiar with the dark aura of your werewolves. Who is that Black Wolf? Christian asked nervously, as he was surprised that his companion had sneaked into Ningji City earlier than him. Now, Alves is not only the deputy director of the project department of Yongsheng Group, but also his loyal subordinate. How could he leak the secrets of his subordinates? So, in response to Christian's questioning, Zhang Fengjai raised the sword in his hand, with the tip of the sword pointed directly at Christian. Since he refused to reveal the information of his tribe, he could only capture the thin boy in front of him and use the cruel torture methods of the wolf tribe to force him to tell the truth. Woo! So, after a sinister and piercing wolf howl, Christian's naked upper body was instantly covered by gray hair, his 10 fingers extended with sharp nails, and his handsome face was quickly replaced by a ferocious wolf head. At the same time, his height of nearly 2 meters quickly climbed to more than 3 meters. In just 5 seconds, the originally tall and mighty Christian was replaced by a huge and terrifying gray wolf, which made most of the girls who retreated to the rest area scream in fear. Ah! Yang Guozheng and the other 4 who also retreated to the rest area, when they saw Christian turned into a terrifying werewolf, although they did not scream in fear like those girls, they also showed fear in their eyes. Fortunately, they had all seen Zhang Fengjai's strong strength and terrifying methods, so after forcibly suppressing the panic in their hearts, they began to comfort the screaming girls. Pan Shalong, who was standing between Zhang Fengjai and Christian, was so frightened that he fell to the ground, and a fishy-smelling liquid flowed out of his crotch. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 562. At the moment when Christian turned into a werewolf, Benson, who was enjoying a massage on the 5th floor, suddenly opened his eyes and sat up, then reminded Chu Zhongxian with a serious look. Mr. Chu, Christian just turned into a werewolf. I'm afraid he encountered a very difficult problem. After hearing Benson's reminder, Chu Zhongxian immediately got out of bed and hurriedly put on his clothes and told Benson. Mr. Benson, go and help Christian solve the problem. Don't let Zhu Zhenjun and Zhang Fengjai know the news of our sneaking into Ningji City in advance, and then destroy our planned assassination plan. When he heard Chu Zhongxian mention Zhu Zhenjun and Zhang Fengjai, Benson, with hatred flashing in his eyes, nodded vigorously. Then, he also quickly put on a black robe, put on a silver cross, picked up a thick Bible, followed Chu Zhongxian out of the room, and went straight to the first-floor lobby of the bath center. Faced with the terrifying werewolf transformed by Christian, those weak girls could only scream in fear at most. But the manly Pan Shalong was frightened to death. Zhang Fengjai, with a look of disgust in his eyes, immediately mobilized the gray energy in his danshan to penetrate into his left foot, then raised his left foot and stomped hard on the ground. Then, a strong gray energy went straight to Pan Shalong along the ground. Of course, before thoroughly investigating the relationship between him and the werewolf, Zhang Fengjai just wanted to blast him aside to avoid dirtying his eyes and affecting his mood. Therefore, the gray energy that went straight to Pan Shalong seemed strong, but in fact it did not have too strong lethality. But just when the gray energy just touched Pan Shalong's body, another dark force reached him at the same time. As a werewolf of the Western alien race, he was born to admire passion and strength, and dared to resist without fear of oppression by the strong. He was very disgusted with cowardly people. Therefore, when seeing Pan Shalong, who was frightened to death because of his transformation into a werewolf, Christian, like Zhang Fengjai, was disgusted and planned to use dark energy to blow him away, so as not to dirty his eyes and affect his mood. Boom! Although the rearranged Hunyuan taking heart method can absorb yin qi and evil spirits, the transformed gray energy contains the orthodox Taoist righteousness. The evil properties contained in the dark energy are mutually restraining energies with the righteousness, just like water and fire cannot coexist. Therefore, the moment the gray energy and the dark energy just came into contact, the innate restrained properties of each other immediately exploded, directly blowing Panchalang into countless bloody powder. Seeing Panchalang being blown into countless bloody powder, the 82 imprisoned beautiful girls immediately shed tears of excitement and joy, and temporarily forgot Christian's hideous and terrifying appearance. Although Wei Danmen was also very excited, she felt a little unwilling in her heart. Because she felt that Panchalang, who was deeply sinful, died too comfortably and did not suffer the torture and punishment he deserved. Yang Guozheng could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Because Panchalang's death did not need to offend the Pan family, a wealthy family in the provincial capital, and could give the public a perfect explanation, and it could also eliminate the anger of Old Wei, and then try to maintain the calmness of the officialdom in Ningji City and give Ningji City a harmonious and peaceful environment. The only trouble is that Zhang Fengjai, who killed Panchalang, might be retaliated by the Pan family. Fortunately, he knew that Zhang Fengjai not only had the means of a god, but also had a very powerful force behind him, and should be able to ignore the revenge of the ordinary wealthy Pan family. Although Panchalang's accidental death made Zhang Fengjai lose the opportunity to interrogate the other party about his relationship with the werewolf, as long as he could capture the werewolf in front of him alive, he could still use the means of sealing the acupuncture points with silver needles to force out the promise he wanted to know. Therefore, after taking a deep breath to eliminate the slightly regretful emotion in his heart, he took advantage of Christian's slightly dazed state and used the countless blood motes falling in front of him to directly perform a sword technique of star moon brilliance. Although the alien instinct made Christian wake up from his dazed state instantly and dodge in time, the speed of the sword technique to condense the tangible sword energy, and the influence of countless blood motes on vision and perception, caused him to not completely avoid the attack of the sword technique. In the end, the tangible sword energy directly slashed on his right shoulder, leaving a deep wound that could be seen to the bone, and blood spurting endlessly. Woo! The heart-wrenching pain brought by the wound and the bright red blood spurting out of the wound not only did not make Christian feel any fear, but instead aroused the beast in his bones. After a furious howl to the sky, the strong hind leg suddenly kicked the ground and flew into the air, quickly passing the falling blood motes, and pounced towards Zhang Fengjai. Since his physical body was successfully upgraded to the great perfection realm and he often practiced the martial arts taught by his second grandfather, Zhang Fengjai had always wanted to test his ability in close combat, but he had never met a suitable opponent. Now, when he saw the werewolf that pounced on him, he was a master of close combat. He was excited to see the prey and immediately dispersed the sword in his hand, and used a fist technique that could shake the mountains and crack the earth, directly hitting the soft abdomen of the werewolf. Zhang Fengjai's change of attack method from sword to fist was completely beyond Christian's expectations, and also affected his defensive preparations made in advance. Although he wanted to change his attack and defense posture, he was helpless in mid-air and could only mobilize the dark energy to protect his abdomen, and then his sharp claws directly grabbed Zhang Fengjai's head. Bang! After dodging the claw attack by rushing forward, his fist containing gray energy and physical strength directly hit Christian's abdomen. Accompanied by a loud crash, Christian directly retreated to the original place, unable to control his body and took 3 steps back, and then spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood in succession. Feeling that the fierce aura of the werewolf in front of him dropped a lot in an instant, Zhang Fengjai knew that the punch he had just made had severely damaged the opponent's internal organs. Without the slightest hesitation or delay, holding the idea of taking advantage of your illness to kill you, the gray energy combined with the speed of the Qingfeng step allowed him to flash in front of Christian. Continuous boxing attacks directly greeted all the vital points of the opponent's body, with the posture of beating the opponent to death with random punches. Just as Zhang Fengjai expected, the boxing technique containing gray energy and physical strength not only tore through the defense of the physical body, but also failed to hold on to the defense condensed by the dark energy. In the end, the remaining one-third of the energy of the boxing technique not only directly damaged his internal organs, but also affected the influence of the source of power on his strength. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 563. Faced with Zhang Fengjai's violent fist attack, Christian could only passively defend and dodge, and could not launch an effective counterattack. If it was just a simple physical attack, relying on the werewolf's physical defense that was far superior to steel and iron bones, it would only cause pain at most, but would not cause more damage. But Zhang Fengjai's fist attack has extremely strong shock force, which can directly penetrate the physical defense and reach the body, causing serious damage to the blood vessels, meridians, and internal organs in the body. Therefore, after more than 20 violent fists, Christian not only had his skin torn and blood spurted, but also the dark energy consumed rapidly, making it impossible for him to continue to maintain the werewolf transformation. At most, it will take 5 or 6 seconds for him to completely restore his human form. Even the werewolf state with strong physical defense cannot withstand Zhang Fengjai's fist attack, so if he restores his ordinary human form, wouldn't he be killed by Zhang Fengjai with one punch? Therefore, the crisis of death completely aroused Christian's desperate blood. After enduring Zhang Fengjai's fatal punch attack, he quickly distanced himself from Zhang Fengjai by spraying a lot of blood to block his opponent's sight and the rebound force formed by the attack force. Then, he directly detonated the remaining dark energy in his body and burned the werewolf blood in his blood vessels, quickly entering the final form of the werewolf, and quickly transformed into a giant grey wolf about 2 meters tall and 3 meters long. Seeing Christian perform the transformation of the final form of the werewolf, Zhang Fengjai took a deep breath with a solemn face, and then condensed the grey sword again. Because Alvis had introduced him in detail about the 2 forms of werewolf transformation. The first transformation is half man and half wolf, which is what Christian just transformed. The half-man and half-wolf form can not only exert the full strength of the werewolf, but also remain fully awake. The only side effect is that you will feel slightly tired afterwards, but you only need to rest for a few minutes to recover completely. The second transformation is a wolf, which is what Christian looks like now. A wolf that has completely transformed into a beast can not only exert 50% to 60% of its strength beyond its peak state, but also its attack consciousness, reaction, speed, and strength will be multiplied. However, this form of transformation has very serious side effects. That is, after transforming into the final form of the wolf, not only will the violent consciousness completely replace the sobriety, turning it into a beast that only knows how to attack, but the defense of the physical body will be weakened by at least half, and it will not be able to withstand 2 strong attacks. At the same time, after the wolf's ultimate form transformation is completed, not only will the body become very weak, even ordinary people are not opponents, but also within 3 months, it cannot perform the transformation of the werewolf, including the first form of transformation. Therefore, unless it encounters an unavoidable life and death crisis, otherwise, no werewolf is willing to perform the ultimate form of transformation. Woo! Christian, who has completely transformed into a grey wolf, roared angrily at Zhang Fengjai, and immediately turned into a grey shadow, appearing beside him at lightning speed. Bang! The lightning speed that was completely beyond the conscious reaction made Zhang Fengjai unable to make a reasonable and effective attack. He could only rely on his instinctive reaction to swing the sword to block his right waist. With a crisp collision sound, the spine of the grey sword just blocked the claws of the grey wolf. Just when Zhang Fengjai was about to swing the sword to kill the grey wolf returned to its original position at lightning speed. but the stay time was less than 1/10 of a second, and the grey wolf turned into a grey lightning and appeared at the position of his back. Bang! Although the sword successfully resisted the attack of the grey wolf by instinctive reaction, the sword swing speed was slightly slower by nearly 1/10 of a second, resulting in a cut on the casual clothes on the back. Bang, bang, bang. Next, the grey wolf started a violent attack at lightning speed. Zhang Fengjai, who could only rely on instinct to resist, not only fell completely at a disadvantage, but also the casual clothes on his body quickly became rags under the attack of the claws. Fortunately, every strong counter-attack of the grey sword forced the grey wolf to retreat immediately. So, although he looked embarrassed, he actually did not suffer any damage at all. However, through the grey wolf's early attack time, the timing of each retreat, and the guarantee that he would not suffer any damage, he knew that the grey wolf was gradually adapting to his rhythm of resistance and counterattack. If he continued to defend with instinctive reactions, he would be injured by the grey wolf's claws sooner or later. If you want to defeat and capture the grey wolf alive, you must find a way to limit its lightning-fast speed, and then attack and defend to weaken more than half of its body. Thinking of this, Zhang Fengjai took advantage of the grey wolf's retreat and directly used the Qingfeng step to pull the distance between them. At the same time as throwing out the grey sword, he quickly condensed the mark with his 10 fingers and shouted. The sky and the earth are boundless, the Hunyuan righteous law, the mind is indestructible, and it changes in 1,000 ways. Accompanied by a hoarse shout, the grey sword that was integrated into the mark quickly split into 10 identical swords. At the same time, Zhang Fengjai quickly recalled a sharp sword and blocked the grey wolf's sneak attack in time. He then controlled the 9 sharp swords with his mind to form a 9-square grid, directly covering the position where the grey wolf returned. The Qincan Palace moves, the Dui and Gan palaces shake. Seeing that the 9 swords forming the 9 palaces successfully trapped the grey wolf, Zhang Fengjai's eyes flashed with joy, and he immediately activated the 4th palace of the 9 palaces killing array, completely blocking the grey wolf's chance to escape from the 9 palaces. Woo! Although the transformation of the ultimate form gave the grey wolf lightning speed, it directly weakened more than half of its physical defense, making it dare not touch the swords easily. With the movement of the Qincan Palace and the Kun Palace, the 9 palaces killing array, which originally had only 9 swords, gradually turned into countless swords in its eyes, which also made its moving space shrink continuously. With the vibration of the Dui and Gan palaces, the thick smoke formed in the 9 palaces also made it unable to see the picture outside the 9 palaces, and its eyes suddenly revealed an extremely panicked look. In desperation, it could only look up to the sky and make an urgent cry for help. God said, "Let there be light in the world," and then there is light. Just as the grey wolf's urgent cry for help had just fallen, a burst of bird calls suddenly came from the stairs leading to the 2nd floor, which made Zhang Fengjai frown. However, when a ball of light emitting scorching heat condensed out of thin air and bombarded the 9-square grid, he immediately knew the true meaning of the bird call just now. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 564. God said, "Let there be light in the world," and there was light. Thinking of the terrifying destructive power formed by the Bible detonated by Bishop Gerald of the Western Church in the box of Dihao Entertainment City, Zhang Fengjai appeared in front of the 9 palaces without hesitation, and then used his full strength to perform a more powerful sword technique in the star sword technique. The moon falls and the stars sink. Accompanied by Zhang Fengjai's roar, the sword technique performed by the grey sword quickly condensed a tangible sword energy, and directly slashed at the light ball that was smashed. At the same time, he also used his mind to mobilize the swords of Zhen Palace, Sun Palace, and Li Palace, and cooperated with the swords of Qincan Palace to rotate, and used the full force of the rotation force to severely injure the grey wolf. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, Zhang Fengjai used his full strength to perform the tangible sword energy formed by the sword technique, and after breaking the light ball that was condensed in a hurry, he continued to slash at a foreign old man standing on the stairs. God said, "You are the source of sin, and you deserve the punishment of light." Facing the tangible sword energy that was coming at him quickly, Benson immediately took out the cross hanging around his neck and sang with great piety. Although he also couldn't understand the bird language that the foreign old man was singing, but seeing the lightsaber that was quickly condensed in front of the foreign old man and feeling the huge light power contained in the lightsaber, Zhang Fengjai knew that the tangible sword energy condensed by the moon falling star sinking sword technique was likely not a match for the lightsaber. At the same time, he was more aware that the slightly thin foreign old man in front of him was definitely not as strong as Juril. So, he took advantage of the interval when the foreign old man was resisting the tangible sword energy, turned around and cooperated with the 9 palaces to kill the Grey Wolf with all his strength, so that he could concentrate on dealing with the masters of the church. Originally, under the full strength attack of the 6 palaces and 6 sharp swords, the Grey Wolf, who was already in danger, was hit hard the moment he was unable to dodge with the strong participation of Zhang Fengjai. The heavy blow caused the overdraft consumption of dark energy and werewolf blood, making it impossible for the Grey Wolf to maintain the transformation and gradually return to Christian, and because of extreme weakness, he fainted directly. Boom! At the moment when Christian, who had recovered his human form, fainted, the lightsaber that quickly condensed shattered the visible sword energy and slashed directly at Zhang Fengjai, which forced him to temporarily give up the idea of killing Christian and quickly merged the 10 swords to continue to perform swordsmanship. Starry Sky. 9 invisible sword energies kept hitting the lightsaber that had consumed more than half of its energy, and finally it was completely shattered before the lightsaber reached the top of his head. While severely injuring Christian, the swordsmanship that he hastily performed when he turned around could also defeat the holy sword of light that he had carefully performed. Benson, holding the Bible in his hand, asked with an extremely solemn expression, "Young man, who are you? Which sect of Taoism do you belong to?" As a bishop in the inner circle of the Holy See, Benson's cultivation and strength are not only comparable to the peak of the 8th level of the foundation building period, but he is also very familiar with and understands the Chinese Taoism and monks. The thin young man in front of him, with his strength and means just now, made him seriously suspect that the other party might be from the 10 major Taoist sects that the Holy See is very afraid of. If the other party is from the 10 major Taoist sects, then he can only choose to give up Christians' reconciliation to ensure that it will not affect the Holy See's plan in China. If the other party is just an ordinary person, then he will use thundering means to kill the other party directly. Through Alvez's narration of the Western Holy See, Zhang Fengjai, who is very clear about their style of doing things, not only did not answer the foreign old man's question, but also planned to continue to use the Kinkan swordsmanship to kill the other party. But at this moment, a handsome young man who suddenly appeared behind the foreign old man made him suppress the idea of shooting and questioned with a gloomy look, "Are you from the Chu family in the provincial capital?" Because the young man who appeared behind the foreign old man not only looked 70% to 80% similar to Chu's Honggaiwa, but also had the same arrogance between his eyebrows, which was exactly the same as Chu's Honggaiwa, so he concluded that the handsome young man was the direct descendant of the Chu family. "You are Zhang Fengjai." When Chu Zhongxian heard Zhang Fengjai's question, he suddenly felt nervous and couldn't help observing the thin boy in front of him. Ordinary appearance, thin figure, tattered clothes. The thin boy in front of him was very similar to the young man described by the family, which made Chu Zhongxian guess his origin immediately. Although the handsome young man did not directly admit that he was the direct descendant of the Chu family, being able to call out his name was enough to prove his identity and origin. Thinking of the Chu family not only giving him tens of millions of dollars worth of money and jade pendants to prevent him from telling about their collusion with the Western Church and alien races, but also through Zhu Zhenjun's testimony, guaranteeing that they would not have any dealings with the Western Church and alien races. Now, only 4 months have passed since they promised. Not only did they break their promise, but they also dared to sneak into Ningji city with the masters of the church and the werewolves of the alien race. The Chu family's actions were both a humiliation to His Majesty and a slap in the face, which made Zhang Fengjai feel furious, and a strong murderous aura emerged from his body. Children of the Chu family, since you dare to tease me, you must be prepared to bear my thunderous wrath. Whether it was the strong murderous aura emerging from his body or the angry scolding, Chu Zhongxian and Benson confirmed that the thin boy in front of them was Zhang Fengjai, who they sneaked into Ningji city this time and prepared to assassinate secretly. Now that their identities have been completely exposed, the plan of sneak attack cannot be carried out smoothly. Chu Zhongxian and Benson immediately decided to carry out the second plan they had prepared. Chu Zhongxian immediately took out his mobile phone and found a number. After dialing it, he only said one sentence: "Black Shadow." At the same time, Benson, with hatred in his eyes, walked down the stairs and narrated. Zhang Fengjai, Juril is not only a clergyman carefully trained by the church, but also a junior of the Wilson family. Those who dare to kill the Lord's people must bear the Lord's punishment. Having said this, Benson reached out and opened the first page of the Bible, and sang devoutly. God said, "The world is bright, peaceful, and friendly. All existences that violate the world will be dispelled by light." Along with Benson's devout singing, a ball of light quickly condensed above the hall, and a soft and warm milky white light emanated from the ball of light. Under the illumination of the milky white light, Zhang Fengjai suddenly felt an urge to kneel down and surrender. However, as he mobilized his mind to block the space of his sea of consciousness, the urge to kneel down and surrender disappeared instantly. Although the milky white light emitted by the light ball had no effect on Zhang Fengjai, it was like hypnosis for Yang Guo's Hung and others who returned to the rest area, and for He Li and others who returned to the cashier counter. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 565. Tianzi Pavilion Bath Center. He Li and his two companions, who were the first to be unable to withstand the hypnosis of the milky white light, and the beautiful girl behind the cashier directly knelt on the ground, and kowtowed with a pious look on their faces. Immediately afterwards, Wei Danmen and the other 82 girls also knelt on the ground and kowtowed as hard as He Li and others. Only Yang Guo's Hung, Huang Yiwen, Qi Bingwen, and Xiaolin did not succumb to the hypnosis of the milky white light, but instead a pure white light emitting righteousness emerged from their heads. The white light stubbornly resisted the oppression and infiltration of the milky white light, which also made Benson, who was chanting, frown. Not good. Originally, Zhang Fengjai wanted to see the real light magic of the church, see how it differed from the Taoist magic, and find the advantages and disadvantages between them so that he could have a clear idea. But as the same milky white light spots gradually appeared above the heads of the people who were kneeling and kowtowing in the hall, and quickly merged into the light ball condensed by Benson, causing the size of the light ball to grow larger and the momentum it exuded to grow stronger, he couldn't help but change his face and immediately mobilized the gray energy in his dantian to perform a more powerful sword technique. Meteor chases the moon. Accompanied by Zhang Fengjai's light shout, the two tangible sword chi that were quickly condensed by the sword technique slashed at the light ball one after another at a speed that was no less than the wind. Boom! Boom! Accompanied by two deafening roars, the first tangible sword chi, which was the fastest, barely shook the light ball that was already as big as a millstone, and the second tangible sword chi, which was the most powerful, only split a few cracks in the light ball. But under Benson's uninterrupted chanting, and under the fusion of the floating milky white light spots of the people kneeling in the hall, the cracks on the surface of the light ball quickly returned to their original state. After taking a deep breath and suppressing the panic in his heart, Zhang Fengjai threw the sword directly into the air, and shouted while his 10 fingers quickly condensed the mark. The sky and the earth are boundless, the law of the universe is righteous, the mind is indestructible, and it changes in 1,000 ways. Accompanied by the hoarse shouting, the grey sword that was integrated into the mark quickly split into 10 identical swords. Without any delay, he continued to condense the mark and continued to shout after integrating the mark into the 10 swords. The sky and the earth are boundless, the world is reversed. The 10 swords integrated into the mark quickly occupied all directions of the light ball, and then accelerated in a counterclockwise direction. As the speed of the 10 swords rotating in reverse became faster and faster, not only did they gradually cut off all the milky white light spots that were integrated into the light ball, but they also shielded the energy enhancement of the light ball by Benson's chanting. More importantly, the pulling force formed by the reverse rotation of the 10 swords began to continuously weaken the milky white brilliance emitted by the light ball, which also gradually made the people kneeling in the hall sober up. Thinking of the involuntary kneeling and kowtow just now, and the impulse of being willing to contribute everything in their hearts, everyone stood up quickly, their faces were gloomy, and their eyes looking at Benson revealed a strong fear and hatred. And Lee, who had a strong desire for revenge, quietly bypassed the cashier with an electric baton, and then entered the fire escape next to him. Seeing that Zhang Fenji's Kinkan swordsmanship could actually limit the strongest light magic he controlled, Benson, whose face suddenly changed, immediately knelt on his knees and reached out to open the second page of the Bible. Then, an English word appeared on the second page of the Bible. Crime. The English word formed by 5 letters quickly dispersed, and then began to attack the 10 swords individually, thereby preventing the swords from rotating in reverse and relieving the situation of the light ball being trapped. With a trace of thought integrated into the gray sword, the sword formation was automatically controlled without involving too much of his energy. Therefore, facing the 5 English letters attacking the 10 swords, Zhang Fenji immediately mobilized the gray energy of Danshan to penetrate into the 5 fingers of his left hand, and then used the means of finger ejection to continuously block the attack of the 5 English letters. Perhaps it was because the quality of the Bible in Benson's hand was average, or perhaps it was because the condensation of the light ball involved Benson's too much energy. Although the force of the finger ejection could not directly destroy the 5 English letters, it successfully blocked the attack of the English letters on the sword. Looking at the light ball trapped by the retrograde rotating sword, not only the light it emitted became dimmer and dimmer, but also the volume gradually shrank. Looking at the word sin condensed in the Bible in his hand, not only could he not successfully rescue the light ball, but he was constantly repelled by the force of the finger ejection. Benson, whose face gradually became gloomy, bit his tongue and spit out a mouthful of blood at the Bible, and then reached out to open the 3rd page of the Bible. Immediately afterwards, an English letter of evil emerged, and then cooperated with the 5 English letters of crime to fight against the finger force. Zhang Fenji raised his mouth slightly, and a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. He continued to mobilize the gray energy in his Danshan to penetrate into the 5 fingers of his right hand, and continued to block the 9 English letters with the force of his 10 fingers. Benson, whose face was slightly pale, had a resolute look in his eyes. He continued to bite his tongue and spit out 2 mouthfuls of blood at the Bible, then reached out and opened the 4th page of the Bible. Then, an English letter of ruin appeared. However, just when the English letters of ruin were scattered and ready to cooperate with the other 9 English letters to resist the power of the fingering, Benson, who was kneeling on his knees, suddenly howled miserably and fell to the ground tremblingly. On the ground. Benson's sudden pitiful howl immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the hall. When they saw Lee holding an electric baton behind Benson, everyone's eyes immediately showed disbelief. After all, the method Benson showed just now gave people a mysterious and powerful feeling, just like the angels performed in movies and TV series. In the eyes of everyone, only powerful men like Zhang Fenji, who are as powerful as Eastern immortals, have the strength and hope to defeat the divine messenger. Now, Benson, who is like an angel, was knocked down by an ordinary security guard using an ordinary electric baton. This strong visual and psychological contrast completely subverted everyone's perception. Compared to the unbelievable reactions of everyone at the scene, Zhang Fenji was not surprised at all when faced with the scene of Lee knocking down Benson. Because Alves once gave him a detailed introduction to the advantages and disadvantages of the Vatican clergy. He knew that the cultivation methods of the Vatican clergy mainly focus on spiritual power. They can rely on the spiritual power of cultivation to easily mobilize natural energy and perform extraordinary feats. Power. However, due to the overly despised physical training, their physical bodies are not as strong as ordinary people. Not to mention the electric baton with electric shock, even the powerful fists. Benson, who has entered his old age, cannot bear it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 566. Tianzige Bathing Center. Seeing Benson lying on the ground twitching, Zhang Fengjai didn't waste too much time and appeared beside him. He picked up the Bible that fell on the ground and then closed the open pages of the Bible with force. And at the moment when the pages of the book were closed, the 13 scattered letters of the 3 English words returned to the Bible like lightning. Then, he directly raised his foot and stepped hard on Benson's head. Zhang Fengjai, stop it! Chu Zhongxian, who was shocked that the powerful Benson was knocked down by a little man, didn't react until Zhang Fengjai bent down to pick up the Bible. When he saw Zhang Fengjai raising his foot to kill Benson, thinking of Benson's special status in the Holy See and his huge influence in the business world, Chu Zongxuan's face suddenly changed and he quickly shouted, "Puff!" At this moment, even if Yang Guozheng, who had a good relationship with him, came forward in person, he could not stop his determination to kill Benson, let alone Chu Zhongxian, who had a deep hatred against him. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai, who ignored Chu Zongxuan's sharp scolding, directly stepped on Benson's head with his foot. As Benson fell, the ball of light formed through chanting quickly dimmed and shrank. In the blink of an eye, the ball of light completely disappeared without a trace. After retracting the 10 counter-rotating swords, Zhang Fengjai reached out and patted He Li on the shoulder, comforting him in a gentle tone. Yes, I am very satisfied with your performance just now, so the grudge between you and me will be completely eliminated from now on. Facing Zhang Fengjai's gentle relief, He Li was suddenly flattered and wanted to express something. But at this moment, Chu Zhongxian, who was furious and gnashing his teeth, suddenly shouted hoarsely, "Zhang Fengjai, you deserve to die." Because Benson is not only the brother of a cardinal in the Holy See and has the power to dominate the sky with one hand, but he is also the boss behind 3 listed companies and 4 groups. Benson's unexpected death will not only seriously affect the Chu family's overseas business, but may also cause a rupture between the Chu family and the Western Holy See and foreign races. This is why Chu Zhongxian feels angry. Looking up at Chu Zhongxian standing on the stairs, Zhang Fengjai flashed a murderous intent in his eyes. Just when he was about to kill him, the glass door of the lobby on the first floor was suddenly pushed open, and 9 young men in black suits quickly rushed in. Kill him! Seeing the 9 young people rushing towards him, Chu Zhongxian had a look of surprise in his eyes. He immediately pointed his finger at Zhang Fengjai and launched a fatal attack, then jumped down the stairs and ran towards the fire escape. After hearing Chu Zongxuan's order, a look of doubt flashed in Zhang Fengjai's eyes. Because the 9 young people in front of me look capable and strong, but in fact they are just ordinary people with professional training. Even Benson, the Holy See bishop who masters light magic, and Christian, who can transform into a werewolf, are no match. How can 9 ordinary young people kill him? However, when he saw Chu Zhongxian jumping down the stairs and running desperately towards the fire escape, a flash of light suddenly flashed in his mind, making him immediately realize the danger of the 9 young people. Without the slightest hesitation, 100% of the gray energy in his dantian combined with King Fengbu allowed him to rush to the fire escape 1 step ahead at a speed exceeding the speed of the wind. Immediately afterwards, he directly grabbed Chu Zhongxian, who was desperately trying to escape, and then threw him hard towards the 9 young people. "Stop!" Chu Zhongxian, who was thrown into the air towards the 9 young men, quickly ordered loudly with a look of horror in his eyes. After hearing Chu Zongxuan's order, the 9 young people had a look of joy in their eyes. They immediately stopped running and quickly raised their hands and pressed them into their arms. Although the actions of the 9 young people confirmed his conjecture, whether his conjecture was completely correct still required further inspection. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai immediately stretched out his fingers and fired out 10 blasts of force, directly hitting Chu Zhongxian, who was lying on the ground howling, as well as the Xincha points of the 9 young people, and forcefully immobilized their bodies. Immediately afterwards, he appeared in front of the first young man, then reached out and tore open the other man's shirt, revealing the time bomb tied to his body. Seeing the bomb tied to the young man's body, Yang Qiushan's face turned gloomy and he greeted Xiaolin, who was proficient in bomb disposal. "Xiaolin." "Yes, Director." After answering the order, Xiaolin quickly ran to the young man and observed him carefully. When he saw the type and capacity of the explosives, the hidden touch screen, and the time displayed on the monitor as 0.1 seconds, he couldn't help but feel scared and explained to Zhang Fengjai. "Mr. Zhang, this is a timed explosive made using fingerprint instructions. Only through the fingerprint of the owner of the explosive can the timed explosion of the explosive be triggered and stopped." At the same time, the explosives tied to his body seemed small, but the power of the explosion was enough to destroy the entire bathing center building. After hearing Xiaolin's explanation, a frightening cold light flashed in Zhang Fengjai's eyes, and he immediately turned to He Li and gave instructions. "Notify everyone in the bathing center and ask them to evacuate the building within 3 minutes. As you command." He Li vaguely guessed what Zhang Fengjai wanted to do, and quickly nodded in agreement. He took out the walkie-talkie he carried with him, contacted the heads of various departments, and went up the stairs to call people. "Xiaolin, can you modify the time of the explosion of the explosives?" Zhang Fengjai looked back at Xiaolin and asked after withdrawing his gaze from He Li. "Yes." Xiaolin, who also guessed Zhang Fengjai's intention, nodded vigorously. "Then please reset the time of the explosion of the explosives on this person to 30 seconds. "No problem." After nodding his head in assurance, Xiaolin used the young man's fingerprint to successfully change the time displayed on the display screen to 30. "Mr. Zhang, as long as this person's left index finger presses on the touch screen, the explosion program of the time bomb can be started." "Thank you." After thanking him, Zhang Fengjai solemnly exhorted. "Xiaolin, you and Director Yang will lead everyone away from the bath center immediately." "Got it?" After nodding, Xiaolin immediately turned and went straight to Yang Guozheng, explained a few words briefly, and then quickly left the hall with Wei Danmen and the 82 girls. After withdrawing his gaze from Yang Guozheng and Wei Danmen, Zhang Fengjai turned around and came to Benson, whose head was crushed by the stomping, and then squatted down to start searching. Finally, he found a cross made of pure silver, a delicate glass bottle containing holy water, a beautiful gold card, and an opened envelope in Benson's black robe. After collecting the things he found, Zhang Fengjai stepped towards Christian, who had restored his original appearance. After carefully examining his body with the technique of pulse cutting, Zhang Fengjai, with a look of joy in his eyes, mobilized a Taoist silver needle in the sea of consciousness space and directly pierced it into Christian's eyebrows. Then, he stood up and walked to Chu Zhongxian, whose face looked slightly painful, with a gloomy chill in his eyes. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 567. Tianzige Bathing Center. The Xincha point can only temporarily restrict people's activities and does not affect people's vision, hearing, consciousness, speech, etc. Zhang Fengjai ordered He Li to divert the staff of the bathing center, and ask Xiaolin to remodify the time bomb activation time, so that Chu Zhongxian could also guess his intentions. Therefore, when he saw Zhang Fengjai walking up to him, with a gloomy coldness in his eyes, he immediately asked in horror. Zhang Fengjai, what do you want to do? It's very simple, treat others in their own way. Facing Chu Zongxuan's questioning, Zhang Fengjai, whose mouth corners slightly raised, described in a sinister tone. Since you want your men to kill me with the same method of death, then I also want you to taste the process of your body being destroyed by a time bomb, and enjoy the wonderful feeling of your soul being out of the body. The process of the body being destroyed, the wonderful feeling of the soul leaving the body. Zhang Fengjai's graphic description made Chu Zongxuan's face instantly turn pale as a sheet of paper, and he began to defend himself with a trembling voice. Mr. Zhang, the order to assassinate you has nothing to do with our Chu family. It was a decision made by the Western Vatican's Council of Cardinals and the Western Alien Alliance. We, the Chu family, only have to obey the order. Moreover, these 9 suicide bombers in front of us were hypnotized and controlled by Bishop Benson using light magic. The purpose is to prevent them from detonating a time bomb to die with you if the assassination mission fails. There was a slight pause in the offending tone, and after a look of reluctance flashed in his eyes, Chu Zhongxian began to seduce him with generous offers. Mr. Zhang, as long as you are willing to let me live, I am willing to pay for my fault as an accomplice. Whether it's money, beauty, power, or status, whatever I, Chu Zhongxian, have, I will give it to you. Whatever my Chu family can do, I will do my best to handle it for you. Facing Chu Zongxuan's guilt and temptation, Zhang Fengjai smiled calmly and reached out to help him up. This also made him mistakenly succeed in his plan, and his eyes suddenly showed a proud and ruthless look. Zhang Fengjai, who is proud of himself and looks like a god, is actually a common man who covets glory and wealth. Although Hen La Yu's assassination mission failed this time, he also understood Zhang Fengjai's true strength and fatal weakness, and the next assassination mission will definitely succeed. But Zhang Fengjai's next move caused the proud and ruthless look in his eyes to be instantly replaced by despair. Because after Zhang Fengjai lifted him up with his own hands, not only did he not untie the acupuncture points that were holding his body, but he turned around and gathered around him all 9 young people with time bombs tied to their bodies. Mr. Zhang, our Chu family is one of the 4 wealthy families in the provincial capital. It has been inherited for nearly 100 years, and has earned more than hundreds of billions of wealth. We have secretly cultivated hundreds of top beauties, and our accumulated connections can influence the feudal officials. Are you not moved at all? Looking at the 9 young people surrounding him, looking at the new type of bombs tied to their bodies, and the endless fear of death in his heart, Chu Zhongxian still refused to give up and continued to seduce. Chu Zhongxian, the wealth in the secular world is just a cloud to me, and the top beauties cultivated by the Chu family are nothing more than pink skeletons to me, so you can go to hell with Chu's Hongaiu in peace. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's answer, the anticipation in Chu Zongxuan's eyes was gradually replaced by madness, and he threatened to change his plan. With the surname Zhang, my Chu family not only has a close cooperative relationship with the Western Holy See and the Alien Alliance, but also has a kinship with a strong man from the Supernatural Research Institute. If you dare to hurt me today, then wait for the revenge of angels, demons, vampires, werewolves, ascetics, and secular forces. I'll wait. Zhang Fengjai, whose face instantly darkened when he heard about the forces colluded with the Chu family, replied with a look as cold as ice, then stretched out his hand and used a powerful force to directly seal Chu Zongxuan's mute point. Then, he closed his eyes and left the sea of consciousness with his driving thoughts, and began to check the situation in the entire building to see if there were any people left behind. A minute later, Zhang Fengjai withdrew his thoughts, picked up the left hand of the young man in front of him, used the left index finger of the other person's left index finger to restart the detonation process of the time bomb, and quickly left the hall while carrying the still unconscious Christian, and then ran straight 100 meters away. Yang Guo's Hung et al. Stopping and putting down Christian, he turned around and looked at the 5-story Tianzige bathing center. He silently started counting down in his heart. 25. 24. 3. 2. When the number silently recited in his heart reached 1, several roars that were enough to shake the entire Ningji city suddenly sounded. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, a mushroom cloud suddenly rose from the bottom of the 5-story bath center. Immediately afterwards, the Tianzige bathing center, covering an area of more than 1,000 square meters, was instantly reduced to ashes. After retracting his attention to the collapsed building in the bathing center, Zhang Fengjie turned around and looked at Yang Qiaoshen's instructions. Director Yang, you and Officer Qi continue to clean up the mess, and ask Officer Huang and Officer Xia to accompany me to investigate the suicide case of a female student in UKI High School. After hearing Zhang Fengjie's instructions, Yang Guosheng couldn't help but frown, and there was a look of embarrassment in his eyes. Although Pan Qilang, the murderer behind the kidnapping and abduction of dozens of girls, had been killed in the fight between Zhang Fengjie and the werewolf, and did not need to face the pressure from the wealthy Pan family in the provincial capital, the accidental death of Chu Zhongxian, a direct descendant of the wealthy Chu family in the provincial capital, made the subsequent situation more complicated, and far beyond the authority of a small deputy director like him. After all, the Pan family is just an ordinary wealthy family in the provincial capital, while the Chu family is one of the 4 top wealthy families in the provincial capital. The power gap between the two families is like a world of difference. Zhang Fengjie smiled and reminded Yang Guosheng, who could guess the reason for his embarrassment. Director Yang, you are not a Taoist monk, so you are not very clear about the agreement between our Chinese Taoist sect and the demon race, the Western Church and the alien race. For the accidental death of the Chu family's children, the church masters and the werewolves, the Chu family not only did not dare to retaliate, but will fully cooperate with your police station to quell the conflict in Tianzi Pavilion Bath Center as soon as possible. So, you only need to handle the next case according to the law. After being reminded here, Zhang Fengjie unexpectedly felt the subtle changes in Yang Qiaoshen's luck, and quickly mobilized the gray energy in his dantian to open the sky eye and observed it carefully. Then, he smiled and bowed his hands to congratulate. Director Yang, congratulations on your success and continued to rise to the top. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 568. When he first met Zhang Fengjie, Yang Guosheng had already witnessed his amazing fortune-telling ability. In the subsequent cooperation and contact, he witnessed his perfect fortune-telling. So, when he heard the words that were obviously used to congratulate Gao Gao, Yang Guosheng immediately forgot the trouble of cleaning up the mess, clenched his fists excitedly, and his eyes showed an ecstatic look. Ignoring the emotional Yang Guosheng, Zhang Fengjie nodded to Huang Yiwen and Xiaolin after mentioning Christian, who was in a coma again, and then walked towards the police car parked not far away. Watching Zhang Fengjie walking away, Wei Danmen quickly raised her jade hand, opened her sexy and seductive mouth and wanted to ask for him to stay, but she didn't know what to say for a while. After all, she and Zhang Fengjie just met for the first time, and there was not much communication between them, let alone deep feelings. In the end, she could only watch Zhang Fengjie get into the police car, and then watched the police car slowly leave, with a look of reluctance and pain in her eyes. Reluctance, because she had already developed a deep attachment to Zhang Fengjie in her heart, and wanted to stay by his side forever. Pain, because the 2 years of imprisonment had made her lose her innocent body many times, and she felt that her dirty body was completely unworthy of Zhang Fengjie, who was like a fairy god. After throwing Christian into the trunk of the police car, Zhang Fengjie sat in the back seat of the police car, took out his mobile phone, found Alvis's number, and called directly. The call was very short as 3 seconds. The content of the call was also very little as 1 sentence. Alvis, prepare a large bag that can hold a person, and drive to the gate of UKI High School to wait for me. After hanging up the phone and putting away the phone, Zhang Fengjai leaned directly on the back of the back seat, then closed his eyes and began to think and review. In the fight with the werewolf Christian who performed the ultimate transformation, he found that he lacked sufficient means of defense, including defensive martial arts and physical strength. If he was proficient in defensive swordsmanship, fists, and palms, he could completely use defensive counterattacks to find flaws in the Grey Wolf's extreme speed attack and achieve a fatal result. If his physical body grade could be promoted to the peak state, he could ignore the Grey Wolf's claws and dark energy, break the extreme speed with absolute power, and easily kill the Grey Wolf. In the duel with the swordsmanship and light magic of the Holy See Bishop Benson, except for the Kinkan swordsmanship taught by the third grandfather, which could restrain the light magic, the remaining swordsmanship, fists, and palms did not play much of a role. If he could master one or two sets of swordsmanship, fists, and palms that were not inferior to the Kinkan swordsmanship, then he could limit the opponent's strongest attack with the sword formation composed of the Kinkan swordsmanship, and then easily resolve the battle with the swordsmanship, fists, and palms that were not inferior to the Kinkan swordsmanship. After careful and profound review and thinking, Zhang Fengjai decided that in the next period of time, in addition to using the rearranged Hunyuan taking heart method to improve his cultivation, he would take time to practice the Suan Li Palm he got from Tao Jingyang, and collect and purchase enough genius treasures to assist his physical body to reach the peak level. Just as Zhang Fengjai was reviewing the gains and losses in the battle just now, Xiaolin, who was responsible for driving, observed him through the rear-view mirror, and his eyes showed hesitation and struggle. As the saying goes, one can't do two things at the same time. Huang Yiwen, who was admiring the scenery outside the car, soon discovered the danger of the police car driving, and quickly turned her head to look at Xiaolin, who was driving, and found the hesitation and struggle in his eyes. Due to the special nature of criminal police work, they have been together for nearly a year, so she knows Xiaolin's character very well. Knowing that he is very curious, he must want to ask Zhang Fengjai about the secret of werewolves. So, she reached out and touched Xiaolin's shoulder, signaling him to drive with peace of mind, and turned her head to look at Zhang Fengjai with his eyes closed and asked, "Mr. Zhang, are there many vampires and werewolves in the Western world? Are there any other monsters besides vampires and werewolves?" After hearing Huang Yiwen's question, Zhang Fengjai considered the growing hatred between him and the Western Church and the Western alien races. In the future, he would definitely encounter more revenge from the masters of the Church and the strong alien races, and might cause trouble to several acquaintances in the Municipal Public Security Bureau. So he decided to reveal some secrets about the Church and the alien races so that they could be mentally prepared. So, after slowly opening his eyes, Zhang Fengjai said gently, "Due to the huge gap in lifespan, realm, and strength, the number of vampires in the two major groups of Western aliens is at least dozens of times that of werewolves, which leads to the fact that vampires dominate the Western alien alliance. However, there is a church that specializes in hunting vampires and werewolves, so the overall number of vampires and werewolves is not very large. At the same time, in addition to vampires and werewolves, there are even more scarce bear people, lion people, dog-headed people, and Medusa among the Western aliens." Originally, it was just to satisfy Xiaolin's curiosity that Zhang Fengjai's rest was interrupted. At this time, Huang Yiwen immediately asked with great interest when she heard Zhang Fengjai mention Medusa in Western mythology novels. "Mr. Zhang, I once saw a description of Medusa in a foreign travelogue, saying that although Medusa is a cold-blooded monster with a human head and a snake tail, every Medusa is a peerless beauty who is stunningly beautiful. I wonder if the record in the travelogue is accurate." "That's right." Recalling Alves's detailed introduction to Medusa, Zhang Maple Leaf nodded in agreement with the records in the travel notes and reminded him with a half-smile. Medusa before her transformation was the most extraordinary beauty in the world, but after her transformation, she is a monster that can scare you unconscious or scare you to death. Zhang Fengjai said everything he knew and answered without hesitation, which aroused Huang Yiwen's curiosity. Just when she was about to continue asking questions, the driving police car suddenly turned and braked to a stop. Turning her head and looking through the car window, she found that she had arrived at her destination, Yuki High School. After seeing Alves, who had arrived at Yuki High School in advance, Zhang Fengjai quickly got out of the car and walked to the trunk, then waved to Alves, who was holding a storage bag. "Master," Alves quickly walked up to Zhang Fengjai and saluted respectfully. After nodding in response to Alves' salute, Zhang Fengjai opened the trunk of the police car, then pointed at the still unconscious Christian and asked, "Alves, let's see if this guy's heart can help you reach the Grey Wolf level." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 569. The Gate of Yuki High School. In fact, before the fight with Bishop Benson of the Holy See, Zhang Fengjai wanted to capture Christian alive. In addition to questioning his relationship with Pan Qilang, he also planned to give him to Alves afterwards. Because before, when Alves told him the details of different alien races in the West, he specifically mentioned 3 ways for werewolves to advance. The first way to advance is to increase blood purity and dark energy by absorbing the power of moonlight. This is also the method used by Alves and most werewolves to advance. However, relying on this method of advancement requires a lot of time to practice, and the advancement process is also very slow. This is the main reason why the wolves are not as good as vampires. The second way to advance is through the transformation of bloodline quality. Higher-level wolf warriors use their own blood and dark energy to help lower-level werewolves purify the impurities in their blood and improve the quality of their blood to gain promotion. However, relying on promotion in this way will not only consume the lifespan of the strong wolf clan, but also cause the level of the strong wolf clan to drop. Therefore, generally only those strong men of the wolf tribe who are about to reach the end of their lifespan and have direct bloodline inheritance with each other will use this method to help their descendants speed up their level breakthroughs. It is a pity that Alves, who comes from a humble background, does not have such an incredible opportunity. The third way to advance is the taboo method belonging to the wolf clan. That is the heart of a higher-level tribesman in the devouring tribe. By absorbing the high-quality blood essence in the heart, the bloodline energy required for promotion is completed. However, relying on this method of promotion requires not only taking great risks, but also a certain amount of opportunities. After all, the absolute suppression among the werewolf bloodline makes it difficult for low-level werewolves to challenge high-level experts. Master Christian, after seeing Christian lying in the trunk, Alves suddenly showed a shocked look in his eyes and couldn't help shouting, "Alves, do you know this guy?" After hearing Alves scream, Zhang Fengjai suddenly became interested and asked, After nodding vigorously, the shocked look in Alves' eyes was gradually replaced by excitement, and then he introduced in detail. "Master, just like the vampire clan has 13 noble and powerful prince families, our wolf clan also has 7 bloodlines and the most powerful royal family. Among them, Lord Christian's Andrew family is the second most powerful royal family. At the same time, the Andrew family is also the only werewolf family that has direct contact and communication with the outside world, and occupies the second elder position in the Alien Alliance. Alves, how many senators are there in the Alien Alliance?" Zhang Fengjai, who had a flash of emotion in his eyes when Alves mentioned the Alien Alliance, hurriedly asked. "Master, there are a total of 13 elders in the Alien Alliance. Among them, vampires occupy 7 seats, wolves occupy 2 seats, bears occupy 2 seats, Medusa occupies 1 seat, and sea monsters occupy 1 seat." Elvis introduced in detail. "Alves, what are the conditions for running for a seat as a senator?" Zhang Fengjai, whose eyes were instantly replaced by light, continued to ask. "Master, I am just an ordinary black wolf in the tribe. I am not qualified to contact and understand the alien alliance, so I don't know the conditions and qualifications required to run for the elder seat." Alves shook his head with a wry smile and replied. After a look of disappointment flashed in his eyes, Zhang Fengjai suddenly thought that Edric, who was controlled by him using the Taoist tool Silver Needle, would come to see him in a week at most with a large number of precious cultural relics and Taoist tools. With Edric's identity as a vampire and his status as an earl comparable to that of the Foundation establishment period, he may have understood the requirements and conditions required to run for the Senate seat, and the disappointment in his heart disappeared instantly. He then continued to ask, pointing at the unconscious Christian. "Alves, this seriously injured and dying guy, can he help you advance to the realm of the Grey Wolf?" "Of course." After the bitter smile on his face was instantly replaced by joy, Alves nodded excitedly and explained. "Young master, as the second-ranked royal bloodline in the Wolf clan, the essence and blood in Lord Christian's heart can not only help me directly advance to the Grey Wolf level, but also have a certain chance of obtaining the afterimage secret method inherited from the Wolf clan's bloodline. Afterimage is a secret method that can greatly increase speed, and it has a certain psychedelic effect. In the past, when Alves introduced the way for the Wolf clan to advance, he had explained to him in detail the origin and power of the afterimage secret method. Therefore, he was also happy and looking forward to Alves in his heart, and urged him to pack up Christian and return to his residence as soon as possible to reach the Grey Wolf realm by devouring the heart. After Alves put Christian, who was packed into the bag, into the trunk of the car, and then drove away slowly, Zhang Fengjai averted his eyes and took a deep breath. Later, after mobilizing the grey energy in his dantian to open his eyes, he began to carefully observe the feng shui pattern of Yuki High School in front of him to determine whether the suicide case was a supernatural case. As the observation deepened, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but frown. If we simply look at the feng shui pattern, Yuki High School, which is adjacent to a tributary of the Grand Canal in the east, a car repair shop in the south, Beiwa Park in the west, and Mingzhu community in the north, seems to occupy only water, gold, and wood in the 5 elements. But Mingzhu community is the employee welfare housing of the Ningji steel plant. The coal used by the steel plant to make steel is fire, which conforms to the fire in the 5 elements. As a school for teaching and educating people, Yuki High School has gathered a strong literary atmosphere. Literary atmosphere is thick, thick is heavy, and heavy is earth, which just conforms to the earth in the 5 elements. Therefore, Yuki High School, which seems to have an ordinary feng shui pattern, is actually a feng shui treasure land that occupies the 5 elements. Originally, according to the principle of mutual generation and mutual restraint of the 5 elements, with the continuous blessing of the 4 elements of gold, wood, water, and fire for literary atmosphere, Yuki High School will not only produce many top students every year, but also the literary style of the whole school will become more stable and peaceful, and there will be no tragic cases of student suicides. But for some reason, not only are there many illegal buildings around the school, but most of the projects operated by these illegal buildings, except for some bookstores and snack bars, are internet cafes, massage shops, leisure shops, and KTV karaoke bars. Internet cafes, massage shops, leisure shops, and KTV karaoke bars are all places for relaxation and enjoyment, which will form a kind of extravagant style that restrains the school's literary atmosphere. Under the influence of the extravagant style, not only the blessing effect of the 4 elements on the literary atmosphere is weakened, but also some ghosts and monsters have the opportunity to invade the school. Perhaps this is the reason why the 3 female students jumped off the building and committed suicide. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 570. At the gate of Yuki High School. Zhang Fengjai, who had determined that the female student's suicide was a supernatural case by observing the feng shui pattern of Yuki High School and had a little idea about solving the case, dispersed the gray energy of opening the sky eye and nodded to Xiaolin. Bang, bang, bang. After receiving Zhang Fenjai's nod, Xiaolin quickly knocked on the window glass of the communication room, then took out his work ID and greeted the middle-aged security guard at the door. "Uncle, hello, I'm a policeman, please open the door." "Comrade policeman, is there something wrong with our school again?" Seeing Xiaolin's police ID, the middle-aged security guard at the door quickly stood up and opened the automatic door, and asked with a worried look on his face. Because since the female student's suicide case a year ago, no one knows whether the school has offended some gods or the new school leaders have bad luck, and there have been incidents on campus one after another. Although most of the accidents that occurred later were fights, smoking, drinking and tasting forbidden fruit, which were far less serious than suicide cases, they also seriously weakened the reputation of key high schools and affected the normal operation and enrollment of the school. If this chaotic situation is allowed to continue, in at most 3 to 5 years, Yuki High School may be completely closed due to the dilemma of no students. Then, he, a security guard with a 10-year contract, will also lose all his generous benefits. "Uncle, what happened in our school recently?" From the security uncle's worried inquiry, Zhang Fenjai immediately grasped the key point and asked hurriedly. "Nothing happened." Originally, facing Zhang Fenjai's questioning, the security uncle was about to reveal some accidents that had occurred. But when he accidentally saw the cold weapon on Xiaolin's waist after putting away his work permit, he immediately shook his head and denied it, and turned back to the communication room. Because he knew that the things that happened in the school were at most within the scope of public security management. Even if they were on duty, they would never wear dangerous weapons, so the security guard immediately realized that the 3 policemen in front of him were most likely criminal police officers in charge of major cases. Such a serious criminal case was not something that a security guard guarding the gate could talk about. After staring at Xiaolin with dissatisfaction, Zhang Fenjai sighed helplessly and then stepped into the campus. Because he still planned to use his own means to investigate the troubles that had occurred in the school recently. After patting Xiaolin, who looked a little self-blaming, Huang Yiwen quickened her pace and followed. Looking at the 3 policemen entering the campus, the security guard immediately took out his mobile phone and called the principal, and then told the principal in detail what he knew. At this time, it was 6 o'clock in the evening, the sky gradually darkened, and some classrooms on campus had lights on. When passing a 4-story teaching school, in front of a window that had just turned on the light, a boy and a girl who were hugging each other tightly quickly sat down separately. Today's high school students are so bold and open. Although the boy and girl separated quickly, the projection formed instantly at the moment the lights came on still allowed Huang Yiwen to clearly see what the boy and girl were doing before they separated. Thinking of her 3 years of high school life, she only knew how to study, eat, and sleep every day, and had few opportunities to talk to people of the opposite surname, let alone hug and make out. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Ignoring Huang Yiwen's sigh, Zhang Fenjai looked at the place where the boy and girl had just hugged, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Because at the moment when the boy and girl separated, he vaguely felt the presence of resentment and evil spirit. Although he immediately turned on the observation of the sky eye, he not only did not see the existence of the ghost, but even the Yinsha energy left on the windowsill disappeared instantly. To be able to wipe out the remaining Yinsha energy in an instant, either the ghost just now has become or has been possessed in the body of the boy or girl just now. However, even if it is a ghost at the level of possession will increase the consumption of Yinsha energy, and if the possession time is too long, it may cause the grade to fall. If the ghost really uses the means of possession to avoid the tracking of the sky eye, then it will definitely manipulate the boy and girl to hurt themselves, or perhaps hurt each other in a short time. Therefore, Zhang Fenjai, who temporarily changed the direction of the investigation, hurriedly ordered Huang Yiwen and Xiaolin, "Go to that classroom." Then, he immediately rushed into the teaching building with the Qingfeng step, and then rushed directly to the fourth floor along the stairs. His eyes quickly swept through the classrooms in the corridor, and soon locked onto a classroom on the right side at the end of the corridor. A wooden sign was erected at the top of the classroom door, which read Class 7 of Senior 3. Without any delay, Zhang Fengjai flashed in front of the classroom door, and then stretched out his hand to push open the wooden door of the classroom. At this time, the classroom was very quiet, with only the rustling sound of writing. At this moment, there were not many students in the classroom. Behind the 70-odd desks, there were 36 students, some sitting upright, some lying down, or with their hands on their cheeks. Among them, there were 24 girls and 12 boys. Quickly scanning the 36 students in the classroom, Zhang Fengjai's eyes immediately locked onto the beautiful girl with long hair in the last row. Because under the gaze of the sky eye, a female ghost with disheveled hair and wearing a sexy short skirt was crawling on the back of the beautiful girl. However, most of the female ghost's soul was in the beautiful girl's body, which made him unable to see the other party's true appearance clearly. A strange face, casual dress, 17 or 18 years old, neither a classmate nor a teacher in the school. So, when he saw Zhang Fengjai standing at the door of the classroom, he Dongjian, the monitor of Class 7 of Senior 3, asked hurriedly. "Who are you? Who are you looking for?" The opening of the sky eye requires the use of the gray energy of the Danshan, and the breath emitted by the gray energy immediately attracted the attention of the female ghost. So, when she felt the deadly and dangerous breath emanating from the young man standing at the door of the teaching building, the female ghost controlled the beautiful girl to get up immediately, and then planned to jump out of the window to escape. The four-story building is not only nearly 15 meters in vertical height, but also surrounded by concrete floors. There is only one result of jumping down directly, that is, bleeding from all 7 orifices, and death is certain. So, without paying any attention to the questions from the class monitor He Dongjian, Zhang Fengjai continued to use the Qingfeng step to rush to the back of the classroom, and then at the moment when the beautiful girl was about to jump off the building, he reached out and grabbed her school uniform collar and pulled her directly back into the classroom.